Pace told me one time that leaders create leaders. When I first started, I had leaders reach down and pull me up. It's a culture that is still here today. So when people do that to me, I have the obligation to turn around and do the same thing. I pull people up with me. So leaders create leaders. Community is everything. Welcome back, dogs. We here with another episode of the documentary. It's your boy Daryl. Last episode, we talked about how I grew from being a selfish investor to one that now invests in the relationships around me. Today, we're going to talk about how I joined a community of those like-minded people who put people first and just helped me elevate to the person I am today. So around this time, this is when I've become completely obsessed with everything real estate wholesaling. So I'm watching Brent Daniels TTP, I'm watching Max Maxwell, Sean Terry, and I stumbled across this podcast called Wholesale Hotline with Jamil Damji, Brent Daniels, and Pace Morby. And that's when I found out who this guy was and what Sub 2 is. I had no clue that there was a community of badass investors who cared about squatting up and just helping other people thrive, until I was in these wholesale hotline comments and just seeing so many people talk about Sub 2, right? And Pace was always preaching creative finance. I had no clue what it was. I'm just learning. All I know is cash deals, but he keeps on talking about creative deals and Sub 2, and I'm like, what the heck is that? I'm still cold calling at this time. I'm cold calling, and I come across a seller. This is properties in Baltimore, and her problem, remember we talk about motivation and pain. Her problem was she was losing this house to the bank. She lost her job. Her husband lost his job. This is around COVID, and they were losing their house to the bank. She says, hey, so many people tried to help me. I've wasted a lot of time. I'm just going to give the house back to the bank. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. I know I can help you. I just don't know how yet, but I can help you, right? I can help you. No lie. As soon as I got off the phone with her, I went on to sub2.com and I signed up for a booking. I booked a consultation call with the Sub 2 team, and I had no clue what was in store for me. We had the call. I ended up joining the community, and from day one, you're just flooded with Zooms and meetings and pre-recorded Zooms and daily dial every single day. It was just crazy. I knew one thing. I knew that Pace Morby was the GOAT on the phones, and I knew that I wanted to be like that. I knew I wanted to be really good talking to sellers and having these creative conversations. So what I did was I just became obsessed with listening to Pace Morby seller calls all day. During the daily dial, right? I'm listening to calls and role playing. Actually, at this point, I wasn't even role playing. I'm just a spectator at this point. I'm just consuming content. I'm still making my calls. What is a daily dial? So the daily dial is a place where in Sub 2, we have 4 hours straight of role playing, where somebody is acting to be a seller and somebody's acting to be a buyer. You have 7 minutes on the clock, and you do your best to close a deal. And it's pretty much practice. Right? So I would start every single day off going to the daily dial. I wasn't participating, but I was a fly on the wall, learning. I'm taking notes every single day. It almost became a ritual that I had to start my day off with the daily dial and then get right on calls. It's crazy because on that last deal, the one that I just did, the land deal that I squatted up on, there was another student in Sub 2 who actually had the deal under contract a month right before me. His name was Olu. And Olu reached out to me because I was doing what I do best. I was posting these in his Facebook groups, and Olu reached out to me and he said, no way you had this house under contract. I actually just had it under contract. What did you get it locked up for? And we're just having a conversation about it. We're talking about it. And he found me in the Sub 2 group. So he reached out to me, and I'm like, yeah, this is what we did, blah, blah, blah. We sold the property, and he's just asking me, what did you do? How did you do this? And that pretty much started our relationship. I explained to him how I sold that deal and how I squatted up. And next thing I know, I seen Olu on a closers competition in Sub 2. And he was doing really, really good on the phones. And I knew, remember, I need to be good on the phone. So I reached out to Olu and I said, hey, man, how are you so good on the phones? Like, what's going on? How long have you been in the business for? Like, let's talk. Let's have a conversation. And next thing I know, we realized that he doesn't live far from me at all. And what happened after that was really, really monumental to me becoming a better closer. And it just talks about just how great the community was in general. Olu would come to my house every single day for that whole summer. He would come to my house every single day, and we would make calls for 6, 7, 8 hours straight. We'd have friendly competitions. We'd compete who had the most conversations, who would make the most calls, who would send the most contracts out, who's doing what, right? So he would take things from me, and I would take things from him, and that's how we just worked things out. So I didn't know that I needed a battle buddy. It kind of just came to me, and that's the greatness of this community. Everybody wants to help somebody else, right? So this community is everything. When you're in a community of like-minded individuals who truly want to see you succeed, because they understand if you help somebody else, you'll be helped in return, right? That's not the mindset they're going into it as. They're not saying I want to help somebody because I'm going to get help back, but it's I truly want to help this person. I truly want to help this person, and what comes back is what comes back, and most of the time it's good. And I do got to say, not all communities are like this. So before you join a community, make sure you do your due diligence and you talk to people who are in that community and you ask them, what's the vibe like? What's the community like? Is it just Zooms or do people actually work together to do deals together and help each other out? And look at that leader of the community. I know the leader of Sub 2. He is the most genuine person that I've ever met. He puts so many things before him, and he just tries to provide so much value to so many people, and it trickles down to his community. He told me one time, Pace told me one time, that leaders create leaders, and that's exactly what he's done. So when today Sub 2 looks completely different than it did when I first started. When I first started, I had leaders reach down and pull me up because they learned from Pace, they learned from other leaders in the community, and that is the mentality that was brought to this community. That's the culture that was born in this community. That's the culture that is still here today. So when people do that to me, I have the obligation to turn around and do the same thing. I pull people up with me. So leaders create leaders. Community is everything. I have a few deals under my belt. I'm in a community of like-minded individuals, and my brain is just open now. Like now I know I have a sense that I need to give first now before I receive. Right? I was never thinking that way. I never thought that I need to give value to receive value. So the community just changed my mindset in general. Another thing that really helped, I spoke to another leader in the community, now a great friend of mine, Marlon Johnson, who I asked him some advice. I asked him, how do I become a closer? Because at this point, my vision was a little cloudy. I'm trying to figure out what my next steps are. I know I closed a couple of deals, but there's so many hats you can wear in real estate where you can be successful in so many different ways. But I knew that I wanted to be a closer, and I looked up to other closers like Marlon, who was one of the leaders, and he still does. He has a day on the Daily Dial, and I asked him one day. I just got his number. I gave him a call. I said, "Hey man, how do I become a closer like you?" I hinted to this in one of the previous episodes, and Marlon had gave me some of the best advice where he said, I need to join somebody's team. I don't have enough leads. I'm not taking enough swings at the plate. And what I did was the next 2 weeks, I took his advice. I got on somebody's team, and that's what we're going to talk about on the next episode. So make sure, if you have not already subscribed and hit that bell, do that now. Make sure you comment. Tell me what you learned on this episode, and hit that like button. Smash that like button and share this to 5 friends who need to hear this story. All right, so next week we're going to talk about how I joined a team and how I became a dog closer, how I became a beast. So I will catch y'all next episode. I'm out of here.
I'm Peace. In the West, so I got a zone. They tryna talk, they not in the room. I've been so real, I'm down to the tomb. They in the